morning sun caught the Chrome Tech Industries building like a blade, 70 stories of steel and ambition cutting into the Denver skyline. In the executive parking garage, rows of luxury vehicles gleamed under LED lights. Teslas, Porsches, a midnight blue Aston Martin that cost more than most people earned in 5 years. Nathaniel Pierce stepped out of that Aston Martin, 32 years old, and worth more on paper than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. His suit was Italian. His watch was Swiss. His smile was American, sharp, white, and utterly convinced of its own superiority. He built this, well, inherited it. But he'd tripled the company's value in 4 years, hadn't he? That counted for something. Chrome Tech manufactured electric motors, cutting-edge propulsion systems that powered everything from industrial equipment to premium electric vehicles. The technology was revolutionary, patents worth hundreds of millions. A client list that read like the Fortune 500. Nathaniel walked through the garage like he owned it, because he did. His phone buzzed. Another email from the board. Another demand for quarterly projections. He didn't look up as he strode past the security desk, past the maintenance closet, past the man in the gray coveralls who'd been mopping the same spot for the last 20 minutes. Raymond Holt was 63 years old. His hands were weathered. His back was stiff. His coveralls had a name tag that simply read Ray. Nobody at Chrome Tech knew his last name. Nobody asked. He'd worked there for 17 years. He arrived before dawn and left after dusk. He cleaned bathrooms. He emptied trash cans. He replaced light bulbs and swept floors, and did all the invisible work that kept a building running. And every evening, he drove home in a 1987 Chevrolet Caprice that coughed smoke and rattled like a dying animal. The class divide at Chrome Tech wasn't subtle. Engineers and executives parked in the climate-controlled garage. Support staff parked in the open lot behind the building. And maintenance workers like Raymond, they parked wherever they could find space, usually in the far corner near the dumpsters. But Raymond didn't complain. He just showed up, did his work, kept his head down, until the day Nathaniel Pierce noticed his car. It happened on a Tuesday. Nathaniel was leaving early for a golf meeting with investors. He cut through the lower garage to avoid traffic, taking a route he rarely used. That's when he heard it. A sound like a garbage disposal, eating silverware. A mechanical death rattle that echoed off concrete walls. Raymond's Caprice was trying to start. The engine turned over, failed, turned again. A plume of gray smoke belched from the exhaust. The whole car shuddered like it was having a seizure. Nathaniel stopped walking, stared. Then he laughed. "Jesus Christ," he said, loud enough for the 3 other executives nearby to hear. "Is that thing even street legal?" The other men turned, looked, started grinning. Raymond sat in the driver's seat, hand on the key, face carefully neutral. He didn't look at them. "That's the janitor's car," someone said. "Marcus Webb, VP of Operations. Things been falling apart for years." Falling apart? Nathaniel walked closer, circling the vehicle like a predator sizing up wounded prey. "This isn't falling apart. This is already dead. Someone just forgot to tell it." The Caprice's paint was faded to a color that might have once been blue. The rear bumper was held on with wire. One headlight was cracked. The passenger door had a different shade of primer than the rest of the body. But the engine kept trying to start. "Hey." Nathaniel rapped his knuckles on the roof. "You know we have a company disposal service, right? They'll haul this scrap away for free." Raymond turned off the ignition, looked up through the open window. His eyes were quiet, gray, utterly calm. "It runs," he said. "Barely," Nathaniel shot back. "And it's an embarrassment." "You park this thing where clients can see it?" "I park where I'm told." "Well, I'm telling you now, this eyesore doesn't belong in our facility. It's bad for the brand." Marcus pulled out his phone, started recording. This was too good not to capture. Raymond's expression didn't change. He turned the key one more time. This time, the engine caught. roared to life with a sound like thunder trapped in a tin can. Smoke poured out. The whole car vibrated, but it ran. "Not everything old is worthless," Raymond said quietly. The executives laughed. Marcus was already sending the video to the company group chat. Nathaniel leaned down, put his hands on the window frame. "You want to know what I see when I look at this car? I see someone who's given up. Someone who's accepted mediocrity. You've been here how long? 17 years? And you're still driving this? Maybe that says something about your choices." Raymond met his eyes. Just for a moment. Then he put the car in gear and drove away, trailing smoke like a steamship. Nathaniel straightened, brushed imaginary dust from his hands. "Get that thing banned from the main lot," he told Marcus. "I don't want potential investors seeing it." Marcus was already typing the email. By lunch, the video had been seen by half the company. By evening, it was a running joke. The subject line on the group chat was simple: "Employee transportation standards, a case study in what not to drive." Someone made it their desktop background. Someone else printed a still frame and taped it to the break room bulletin board with a caption, "Dream big." Raymond saw it. Said nothing. Just took the paper down, folded it carefully, and threw it away. Then he went back to mopping floors. The email went out the next morning. From Nathaniel Pierce, CEO, to all ChromeTech employees. Subject: Parking Policy Update. Effective immediately, all vehicles parked in ChromeTech facilities must meet minimum appearance and safety standards. This is to maintain our corporate image and ensure client confidence. Vehicles that do not meet these standards will be assigned to overflow parking in Lot C, located 0.4 miles from the main building. Thank you for your cooperation in keeping ChromeTech professional. Raymond read it on the break room computer during his morning break. Lot C was in the industrial park across the highway. No shuttle service. No covered walkway. In January, in Denver, that meant walking half a mile through snow and wind at 5:30 inches the morning. He didn't argue. Just moved his car. For 2 weeks, he walked. His knees ached. His arthritis flared. But he showed up on time every day, boots soaked, hands red from cold. Nobody noticed. Nobody except Derek Chen, the night security guard. Derek was 26, working his way through community college. He usually read at the desk during quiet hours. But lately he'd been watching Raymond come in each morning, shaking ice from his jacket, moving a little slower each day. One night, Derek stopped him. "You okay, man? That walk's brutal." Raymond smiled. Not a bitter smile. "Just tired. I've walked farther," he said. "Why don't you just get a newer car? I mean, no offense, but the car runs fine. Does it, though?" Derek gestured at the window, where Raymond's Caprice sat in the distant lot, barely visible under a streetlight. Raymond's expression shifted. Something flickered behind his eyes. Memory, maybe. Or pride. "It runs better than people think," he said. "I built parts of that engine myself." Derek blinked. "You're a mechanic?" "I used to be an engineer." The words hung in the cold air between them. "Wait, seriously?" Derek leaned forward. "Like, degree and everything? MIT. Class of '84. Raymond said it casually. Like mentioning the weather. Derek stared. "Then what are you doing? Cleaning floors?" Raymond finished. "Long story. But I worked in a company like this once. Very similar, actually. Same industry. Same technology." "What happened?" Raymond looked out at his car. The old Caprice sat there like a faithful dog waiting for its owner. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "you learn that loyalty matters more than ambition. And sometimes, you hold on to things not because they're valuable to everyone, but because they're priceless to the right person." Derek didn't understand. Not then. But he would. It was Derek who first saw what was under the hood. Late one night, during his rounds, he noticed light coming from Lot C. Not headlights, something else. A focused beam. like a work lamp. He walked over and found Raymond bent over the Caprice's open hood, wearing a headlamp, tools spread on a cloth beside the car. "Everything okay?" Derek called out. Raymond straightened, smiled. "Just routine maintenance." Derek approached, looked into the engine compartment, then stopped, because what he saw didn't make sense. The engine was old, yes. The block was clearly from the 1980 seconds. But attached to it, integrated so seamlessly it looked factory original, was something else entirely. A cylindrical housing made of brushed aluminum. Copper coils wrapped in patterns Derek had never seen. What looked like solid-state components housed in a custom manifold, and running through it all, a series of cables that seemed too advanced for a car this old. The whole assembly hummed. Not the rough idle of a worn-out V8, but something smoother. Almost musical. "What the hell is that?" Derek breathed. Raymond's hand moved to close the hood, then stopped. He studied Derek's face. Seemed to make a decision. "Hybrid propulsion system," he said quietly. "Experimental. I designed it in 1989. "Bullshit. Language I'd use myself, if I were you." Raymond's smile was sad. "But it's true. This engine runs on maybe a third of the fuel it should. Nearly zero emissions. And it's been running perfectly for 36 years. Derek circled the car slowly. "Why would you put something like that in?" "In this. Because I had to hide it somewhere. And nobody looks twice at an old janitor's car." "Hide it from who?" Raymond closed the hood gently, locked it. Turned to Derek, with those quiet gray eyes. "From the people who stole it the first time," he said. "From the ones who took everything my best friend built and claimed it as their own. I don't understand." "You will." Raymond started packing his tools. This company, ChromeTech, it wasn't always called that. And it wasn't always run by the Pierce family. Well, not this generation of Pierces. "You're talking in riddles, man." Raymond paused, looked up at the ChromeTech building, 70 stories of light and glass dominating the night sky. "I'm talking about the truth," he said. "A truth that's been buried for 30 years. But it's still here. Right under everyone's nose. Right under that arrogant boy's nose." "Nathaniel Pierce? His father was my best friend," Raymond said. "Thomas Pierce. The real founder of this company. The real genius. And when he died, they erased him. Rewrote the history. Gave credit to the vultures who'd been circling since day one." Derek felt like he'd stumbled into something vast, something dangerous. "Why are you telling me this?" Raymond lifted his toolbox, started walking toward the building. "Because," he called back, "the truth has a way of surfacing. And when it does, I want at least one person to know I didn't make it up." The old Caprice sat in the darkness, its engine ticking softly as it cooled, hiding a fortune in stolen genius under layers of rust and neglect. 3 days later, ChromeTech's world caught fire. The new X7 motor series, Nathaniel's flagship project, the system that was supposed to revolutionize industrial electric propulsion, failed its final testing phase. Catastrophically, the control systems locked up during the stress test. Thermal regulation spiked to dangerous levels. The magnetic bearing assembly, the core innovation that was supposed to set ChromeTech apart from competitors, destabilized under load. $200 million in development, 3 years of work, contracts with 6 major manufacturers waiting to be signed, all of it circling the drain. Nathaniel stood in the engineering lab at midnight, watching his team tear through diagnostic data for the 16th hour straight. "Talk to me," he demanded. Sarah Mitchell, lead engineer, looked like she hadn't slept in days. "The field harmonics are wrong. The coil geometry creates interference patterns we didn't predict. When we scale up the power, the whole system fights itself. So fix it. We've tried 37 different configurations. The math doesn't work. The spacing ratios are fundamentally flawed. Then change the ratios. It's not that simple. The entire design is built around these specifications. Changing them means starting over. That's another year, minimum." Nathaniel's jaw clenched. "We don't have another year. the investors are already asking questions. If we miss this launch window, Helix Systems will eat our lunch. He kicked a stool. It clattered across the lab floor. Sarah and her team exchanged glances. They'd all been working around the clock. They were exhausted, and their CEO was losing his mind. Maybe, one of the junior engineers said quietly, we should look at the legacy systems. The original designs from the 80 seconds. There might be something we're missing. The 80 seconds? Nathaniel's laugh was harsh. You want to fix a cutting-edge propulsion system with 30-year-old technology? That's your solution? I'm just saying. Sometimes old approaches are old for a reason. They're obsolete. That's why we innovate. Nathaniel grabbed his jacket. I'll be in my office. Fix this. I don't care how. He stormed out. The engineering team sat in defeated silence. Then Sarah noticed something on her desk. A piece of paper, yellow, folded. She didn't remember it being there before. She unfolded it. Inside was a hand-drawn schematic. Pencil on graph paper. The drawing was precise, technical, labeled with careful notation. It showed a coil winding pattern, different from their design. The geometry was unusual spiral rather than linear, with spacing ratios that decreased logarithmically instead of staying constant. At the bottom, in small, neat handwriting, the resonance is your friend, not your enemy. Let the fields dance together. No signature. Sarah stared at it. Where did this come from? Nobody knew, but Miguel Rodriguez, another engineer, said, there's a janitor who comes through around 11. Real quiet guy. I saw him wiping down your desk maybe 20 minutes ago. The janitor drew this? I didn't see him draw it. I just saw him here. Sarah looked at the schematic again. The ratios were elegant, mathematically beautiful. She grabbed a calculator and started running numbers. 5 minutes later, she was on her feet. Get Nathaniel back down here, she said. Right now. Nathaniel arrived furious at being summoned. This better be. It works, Sarah interrupted. She pointed at the test rig, where the X7 motor was now running smooth and stable, its magnetic bearings humming in perfect harmony. We implemented this coil pattern, and the interference disappeared. Thermal regulation dropped 15%. Efficiency is up across the board. Nathaniel stared. How? This. She handed him the yellow paper. He studied it. His expression shifted from confusion to suspicion to anger. Who drew this? We think the janitor. The janitor. Nathaniel's voice went cold. Raymond? The guy with the garbage car? Apparently, and you just implemented his random sketch? Without checking if he stole it from our own archives? Sarah hesitated. I didn't think. No, you didn't. Nathaniel was already moving. The paper crumpled in his fist. Where is he? They found Raymond on the 4th floor, emptying recycling bins. Nathaniel grabbed his shoulder, spun him around. You, he said. My office. Now. Raymond's expression was calm. I'm working. I don't care. Move. 5 minutes later, Raymond stood in Nathaniel's corner office, surrounded by glass walls and city views, while the CEO paced like a caged animal. Where did you get this? Nathaniel threw the yellow paper onto his desk. Raymond glanced at it. I wrote it. Bullshit. This is proprietary engineering. Advanced propulsion theory. You're a janitor. I'm both. Stop playing games. Did you access our servers? Steal files? Raymond's voice remained level. I didn't steal anything. I created that design in 1989. It's based on work I did with your father. Nathaniel froze. What did you say? Thomas Pierce, your father. We worked together on magnetic propulsion systems at a company called Voltdyne Industries. Before it became Chrometech. Before he died, my father started Chrometech from scratch. Your father started Voltdyne. Other people renamed it. After they pushed him out, Raymond met his eyes. I was there. You're lying, am I? Raymond's voice was quiet, but it carried weight. Ask yourself why a janitor knows how to solve a problem your entire engineering team couldn't crack. Ask yourself why the solution looks like something from 3 decades ago. Nathaniel's hands were shaking. Get out. The pattern on that paper is called logarithmic spiral winding. Your father and I developed it in his garage. We built 17 prototypes. Most of them failed. But the 17th worked perfectly. We were about to file patents when the company board removed him. Said his designs were impractical. Said he was costing too much money. Shut up. 6 months later, Thomas was dead. Heart attack. He was 41 years old. And the company suddenly had a breakthrough in magnetic motor technology. Used his designs, changed just enough to avoid direct patent conflicts, made billions. Nathaniel's face was white. You're making this up to cover your theft. Raymond pulled something from his pocket, a key ring. Old, tarnished. He set it on the desk. That key opens the trunk of my car, he said. There's a metal case inside. In that case is the original prototype. Number 17. Still functional. Still running. And if you look closely at the engine housing, you'll find your father's signature, engraved. Right next to mine. He turned toward the door. Wait. Raymond stopped. Nathaniel's voice was barely audible. Why would my father sign an engine? Because engineers are proud of their work. And because he wanted proof. In case anyone ever tried to take it from him. Raymond's smile was sad. He just didn't live long enough to use that proof. And you kept it. For 30 years. In that piece of shit car. That piece of shit is the only evidence that your father was a genius. That he built something beautiful. That he deserved credit for everything ChromeTech became. Raymond opened the door. So yes, I kept it. Because someone should remember the truth. He walked out. Nathaniel stood alone in his office, staring at the key ring on his desk. Outside, the city glittered. Beautiful, cold, indifferent. He picked up the keys. Lot C was dark when Nathaniel arrived. His Aston Martin looked absurdly out of place next to Raymond's Caprice. Raymond was already there, standing beside the old car like a soldier guarding a memorial. I'll open it, he said when Nathaniel approached. But I need you to understand something first. I didn't come here for a lecture. I know. You came for proof. Raymond unlocked the trunk. But proof isn't just about facts. It's about what you do with them afterward. The trunk was surprisingly clean. No spare tire, no emergency kit. Just a single aluminum case, held shut with combination locks. Raymond spun the numbers from memory, opened it. Inside, nestled in custom foam, was a cylindrical assembly about the size of a 2-liter bottle. Brushed metal, copper coils, ceramic insulators, and running along the main housing, etched deep into the metal, 2 signatures, Thomas R. Pierce, Raymond J. Holt. The date beneath them, the 17th of April, 1989. Nathaniel's hand trembled as he reached for it. Don't touch it yet, Raymond said. He lifted the assembly carefully, carried it to the front of the car, popped the hood. The engine compartment was immaculate. And in the center, integrated into the old Caprice's powertrain, was an identical unit larger, more developed, but clearly built from the same design. Raymond pointed. This is the production version. We built it together, your father and I. After Voltdyne's board rejected the prototype, Thomas wanted to prove it could work in a real vehicle, so we installed it here. Ran tests for 6 months. Logged over 10,000 miles. Perfect performance. He pulled out a worn leather journal from behind the battery, handed it to Nathaniel. Test logs, pages and pages of data. Thomas Pierce's handwriting. Dates ranging from May 1989 to November 1989. Notes in the margins. Ray's coil modification reduced heat by 12%. Tried Ray's suggestion on field geometry, he was right again. Efficiency up 8%. And on the last page, dated the 30th of November 1989, the day before Thomas died. This works. We did it. Ray and I built something that will change everything. Tomorrow I'm going to the board with final numbers. They'll have to listen now. They'll have to see what we've accomplished. Nathaniel's vision blurred. Raymond closed the hood gently. He was going to fight for it. For us. For the truth. But he never got the chance. What happened? Heart attack at his desk. They said it was stress, overwork. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was what they told him when he arrived that morning, that the board had voted to terminate his position. That he was done. Who told him? Raymond's expression was carefully neutral. Marcus Webb's father. CFO at the time. He's retired now. Living in Scottsdale on a very comfortable pension. The pieces were falling into place. Nathaniel felt sick. After Thomas died, Raymond continued. I tried to speak up. Showed them the prototype. The test logs. Everything. They said I was lying. Said I was trying to claim credit for company property. They offered me a settlement, $50,000 to sign an NDA and disappear. You didn't take it. I took a job in the mailroom. Worked my way into maintenance. And I've been here ever since. Watching. Waiting. Keeping this engine running. Because as long as it runs, the truth exists. Somewhere. Nathaniel looked at the old car, the rust, the primer, the cracked headlight, hiding a fortune and genius underneath. Why didn't you go public? Sue them? With what money? What lawyers? Raymond smiled. I was a kid. 26 years old. No resources, no connections. The company had both. So I waited. Kept the evidence safe. And watched to see what kind of man Thomas's son would become. The words hit like a punch. You were testing me. I was hoping, Raymond corrected. Hoping you had your father's integrity, his vision, his belief that ideas matter more than credit. And? Raymond looked at him. Really looked at him. You mocked an old man's car, he said quietly. You banned it from your parking lot. You never once asked why I stayed, why I worked here, what I knew. He paused. But you came here tonight. That's something. Nathaniel couldn't speak. Raymond locked the trunk, pocketed the keys. The choice is yours, he said. You can bury this again. Tell yourself I'm a con artist. Fire me. Move on. Or you can ask yourself what your father would have wanted, what he died trying to protect. He walked toward the building, leaving Nathaniel alone with a car full of ghosts and truth. Nathaniel didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in his father's old study, the one room in his childhood home his mother had kept exactly as Thomas left it, and started digging. Old files, bank records, articles from 1989. The more he found, the clearer the picture became. Voltdyne Industries, founded 1985 by Thomas Pierce and 3 partners. Initial focus: electric propulsion research. Early funding from venture capital. Promising prototypes. Then, 1988. Board restructuring. New investors. Marcus Webb Sr. brought in as CFO. Shift toward commercial viability. 1989. Thomas Pierce's salary reduced. Development budget cut. Board minutes, noting impractical research directions and poor resource management. November 1989. Thomas Pierce terminated. Cause of death listed as cardiac arrest. December 1989. Voltdyne announces breakthrough in magnetic motor technology. Patent applications filed. Stock soars. 1992. Company renamed Chrome-Tech Industries, and nowhere, in any of the documentation, was Raymond Holt mentioned. No employment records, no patent credits. Nothing. He'd been erased. Nathaniel found one photograph. A trade show, 1987, Thomas Pierce standing beside a motor prototype. And in the background, partially cut off by the frame, a young man in a Voltdyne polo shirt. Dark hair, serious expression. Raymond. At 6 a.m., Nathaniel called Derek Chen. I need access to personnel archives. Everything from before 1990. Sir, I'm just security. I know. But you have archive room keys. I need them. 2 hours later, they were in the basement storage, surrounded by dusty filing boxes. Most records from that era were gone, digitized or destroyed. But one box, labeled HR MISC 1985 to 1990, had been overlooked. Inside, a single employment contract. Raymond Jonathan Holt. Hired August 1985 as junior engineer, Voltdyne Industries. Starting salary, $42,000. Termination notice, dated the 15th of December 1989. Position eliminated due to restructuring. No severance. NDA required for final paycheck. Attached was a handwritten note. Not signed. But the letterhead was clear. Marcus Webb Sr. Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Holt. Your claims regarding intellectual property are unfounded and potentially litigious. Chrometech Industries denies any obligation to you. Accept the settlement or face legal action. Your choice. Nathaniel sat back against a filing cabinet. He was telling the truth. Derek had been reading over his shoulder. What are you going to do? Good question. The company Nathaniel ran was built on his father's stolen work. The fortune he'd inherited came from blood money. Every success he'd celebrated was tainted, and the man who'd preserved the truth had been mopping his floors for 17 years. I'm going to make it right, Nathaniel said. He just wasn't sure how yet. Number Part 9. The Reckoning. The emergency board meeting was called for 2 p.m. on Friday. Nathaniel stood at the head of the conference table, surrounded by 8 board members who'd been running Chrometech for decades. Most of them had been there since the Voltdyne days, including Marcus Webb. This better be important, Marcus said. I canceled a flight for this. It is. Nathaniel opened his laptop. Projected an image onto the screen. The photograph from 1987, Thomas Pierce, and the motor prototype. My father, Nathaniel said, at a trade show, displaying technology that would become the foundation of this company. Nods around the table. They'd all seen it before. Here's what you haven't seen. Next image. A close-up of the background. Raymond, visible now. His badge clear. R. Holt, Engineering. Raymond Holt, Nathaniel continued. Worked with my father from 1985 to 1989. Co-developed the magnetic propulsion system we still use today. Was terminated without credit. Erased from company history. Silence. This is about the janitor? Marcus's tone was dismissive. Nathaniel, the man is a genius. Nathaniel cut him off. Who's been working in this building for 17 years, watching us profit from his stolen work? He showed them the test logs, the prototype signatures, the employment records, the threatening note from Marcus's father. By the time he finished, 3 board members looked uncomfortable. 2 looked confused. Marcus looked furious. This is ancient history, he said. Whatever happened in the 80 seconds is long past any statute of limitations. And frankly, it's irrelevant. This company succeeded because of good management and smart pivots, not because of one engineer's inflated claims about his contributions. His contributions are running in our current motors. I had our engineering team analyze the core coil design. It's identical to the 1989 prototype. We just scaled it up and added modern control systems. So what? Marcus stood. Ideas are cheap. Execution matters. Your father had interesting concepts, but he couldn't commercialize them. We did. That's business. You stole from him. We saved a failing company. Your father was burning through capital on experiments. We brought discipline, structure, success. Marcus leaned across the table, and you've benefited enormously from that success. So before you go on some crusade for justice, remember who signs your paychecks. Nathaniel smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Actually, the shareholders sign my paychecks, and I think they'll be very interested to learn that our foundational patents might be invalid due to fraud. That landed. The room erupted. Legal concerns. Liability questions. Stock. Implications. Marcus tried to regain control, but Nathaniel wasn't done. I'm proposing 3 things, he said. First, we publicly acknowledge Raymond Holt's contributions to our core technology. Second, we compensate him appropriately. I'm thinking equity stake and retroactive royalties. Third, we rename our research division the Thomas Pierce Innovation Lab. Absolutely not, Marcus said. This is corporate suicide. No, Nathaniel said. This is integrity, something this company forgot 30 years ago. He looked around the table. Vote. Now. All in favor? Silence. Then Catherine Morrison, the oldest board member, raised her hand. I vote yes. Catherine, I was there, Marcus. In '89, I saw what we did to Thomas. I stayed quiet because I was scared. I'm not scared anymore. She looked at Nathaniel. Your father would be proud. One by one, hands rose. Marcus stood alone. You're making a mistake, he said. Maybe, Nathaniel replied. But it's the right mistake. The vote passed, 7-1. Marcus Webb stormed out. He resigned by email that evening. Raymond was cleaning the executive bathroom when Nathaniel found him. Can you come with me? Nathaniel asked. I'm working. I know. This is more important. They rode the elevator to the top floor in silence. Walked past the executive offices to the main conference room, where the entire engineering department was gathered. Raymond stopped at the doorway. What's this? Recognition, Nathaniel said. He led Raymond to the front of the room. Pulled up a presentation. The first slide was the 1,987 photograph. The second was the prototype schematic. The third was a graph showing Chrometech's revenue growth from 1,990 to present $8 billion. This man, Nathaniel said to the assembled employees, is Raymond Holt. Some of you know him as our janitor. What you don't know is that he's also the co-inventor of the technology that built this company. He worked alongside my father, Thomas Pierce, to develop the propulsion systems we still use today. And when my father died, Raymond was erased, silenced, treated as if his contributions never existed. He looked at Raymond. I can't give you back 30 years. I can't undo what was done. But I can make sure everyone knows the truth. The room was silent. Zara Mitchell stood up, started clapping. Then Miguel. Then another engineer. Then another. The entire room rose in applause. Raymond stood very still. His eyes were wet. Nathaniel handed him a folder. Equity package. 5% of Chrometech. Retroactive consulting fees for the past 17 years. And a formal position as Chief Innovation Advisor. If you want it. Raymond opened the folder, stared at the numbers. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Yes, I do. Because it's right. And because my father would have wanted it. Nathaniel paused. I'm also renaming this building. The Thomas Pierce Technology Center. His name, his legacy. Where it belongs. Raymond's hands trembled. Thank you. There's one more thing, Nathaniel said. He pulled up a final slide. A blueprint. New technology based on the original 1,989 designs, but evolved, advanced. We're launching a new division. Clean energy propulsion for mass transit. Buses. Trains. Municipal vehicles. Technology. that can actually change how cities move. And I want you to lead it. Raymond looked at the blueprint. His blueprint, really. The ideas he'd carried for 3 decades. I'm 63 years old, he said. So? My father was 41 when they stole his future. You've got time to reclaim yours. The two men looked at each other. CEO and janitor. Son and father's friend. I'll need a team, Raymond said. You'll have the best engineers in the company, and I'll need that car for demonstrations. Nathaniel laughed. Actually laughed. The Caprice? The Caprice. It still runs perfectly. Proof of concept. 36 years and counting. Then it gets a place of honor. We'll restore the exterior. Put it in the lobby. Let everyone see what persistence looks like. Raymond smiled. A real smile this time. Your father used to say that genius isn't about having the best ideas. It's about protecting them long enough for the world to be ready. Was the world ready? No, Raymond said. But you are. That's enough. The meeting ended. Engineers surrounded Raymond, asking questions, taking notes, treating him like what he was. A master returning home. Nathaniel watched from the doorway. Felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pride that wasn't built on arrogance. Success that didn't require putting others down. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. Mr. Webb's lawyer called. Wants to discuss his departure package. Nathaniel deleted it. Some debts couldn't be paid with money. 3 months later, the Thomas Pierce Technology Center held its dedication ceremony. The lobby had been redesigned. Where a modern art sculpture once stood, there was now a different centerpiece. A 1987 Chevrolet Caprice, fully restored. Cherry blue paint. Chrome bumpers. Perfect condition, except under the hood, where the original hybrid propulsion system still ran, humming its quiet song. A plaque beside it read, "This vehicle represents 36 years of persistence, integrity, and belief in truth." It was driven daily by Raymond J. Holt, who preserved the legacy of Thomas R. Pierce when others tried to bury it. May it remind us that real innovation requires both genius and courage. Raymond stood beside it in a suit for the first time in decades. Next to him was Nathaniel. And beside them both, a photograph of Thomas Pierce. Smiling at that 1987 trade show, the press was there, the board, employees. And scattered throughout the crowd, former colleagues from the Voltdyne days who'd heard the news and come to witness history being corrected. I didn't prepare a speech, Raymond said when it was his turn to speak. I've never been good with words. I'm better with metal and mathematics. But I'll say this. He placed his hand on the Caprice's hood. This car became my life's work. Not because it's beautiful, though I think it is. Not because it's valuable, though apparently it is now. But because it was the last thing Thomas and I built together. The last proof that his vision was real. His voice was steady. Strong. People asked me why I stayed. Why I cleaned floors in the building where my work was stolen. Why I didn't fight harder. And the truth is, I did fight. Every day. By showing up. By keeping this engine running. By refusing to let them erase what we built. He looked at Nathaniel. Thomas used to tell me that legacy isn't about monuments or buildings with your name on them. It's about the problems you solve. The people you help. The truth you leave behind. Raymond smiled. His son understands that now. And that's the only monument Thomas ever needed. The applause was long, genuine. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, Derek Chen approached. He'd been promoted to assistant security chief. Still taking classes. Still reading at his desk. You did it, he said to Raymond. You won. Raymond shook his head. Nobody won. But maybe something got corrected. There's a difference. What happens now? Now? Raymond opened the Caprice's driver door. The interior had been restored too. but the seat was worn in exactly the same pattern as before. His pattern. Now I build the next prototype. Something Thomas and I never got to finish. Something that might actually help people. He slid into the driver's seat, turned the key. The engine came to life. Smooth. Quiet. Perfect. Want a ride? He asked Derek. They drove out of the parking garage together. That old Caprice, carrying 36 years of secrets into the Denver sunshine. Behind them, the Thomas Pierce Technology Center stood bright against the sky, its windows reflecting possibility. 6 months later, ChromeTech unveiled the T-Series municipal transit system. Zero-emission buses powered by Raymond Holt's evolved propulsion design. 90% more efficient than existing electric systems. Affordable enough for struggling city budgets. Reliable enough to last decades. The first order came from Denver, then Portland, then Chicago. Within a year, 16 cities had committed. Raymond worked 16-hour days, mentoring young engineers, refining systems, solving problems that had stumped teams for years. At 64, he was more energized than he'd been at 25. Nathaniel watched the company transform, not just the technology, but the culture. People stayed late because they believed in the work, not because they feared the CEO. Ideas came from janitors and interns, not just executives. The company wasn't just profitable anymore. It was purposeful. One evening, Nathaniel found Raymond in the lab, bent over a new prototype. "You should go home," Nathaniel said. "It's almost midnight." "So should you." They both smiled. "I've been thinking," Nathaniel said, "about my father, about what he'd say if he could see this." Raymond set down his tools. "What do you think he'd say?" "Probably that we took too long. That 30 years is a hell of a detour. Maybe." Raymond wiped his hands on a cloth. "Or maybe he'd say that some truths need time. That justice delayed isn't always justice denied. Sometimes it's justice refined." "You really believe that?" "I drove that car for 36 years, Nathaniel. Through snow and rain and people laughing at me. Through doubt and anger and loneliness. And every morning when that engine started, I believed." He looked at the young CEO. "Belief isn't about knowing you'll win. It's about knowing the fight matters. Whether you win or not." Nathaniel was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry. For how I treated you. For what I said." "I know. How can you forgive that?" Raymond smiled. "Because you learned. Because you chose truth over comfort. Because you're becoming the man your father hoped you'd be." He paused. "And because everyone deserves a chance to be more than their worst moment." They stood in the lab, surrounded by the future they were building together. Outside, in the lobby, the restored Caprice sat under soft lights. Museum piece. Testament. Warning. Its engine could still run. After all these years, after all those miles, it could still run. Because some things, built right and maintained with care, last longer than the people who try to destroy them. Some things endure. Truth endures. And sometimes, if you're patient enough, if you're stubborn enough, justice finds its way home. Even if it takes 36 years and a car full of secrets to get there.